Oh, we're live. We're doing it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Status Coup. My name is Ron Placone. I'm your host today. The date is Thursday, October 19th, 2023. And we got a lot of topics today. But first of all, usually Jordan is here today. Today, Jordan is working on his book. He's got a book about Flint that's going to be coming out soon. Real excited for that. So I'm hosting today. It's good to see everybody. The last time I saw everybody was when I was on the ground in Michigan/Chicago/Ohio. That was a crazy trip. That was a really fun time, though. Me and John Farina had a wonderful time. I was on the ground for part of the 25 days that Status Coup was out there. And again, shout out to all of you who made that possible, because that was an amazing trip. It was awesome what we got to do there, and we cannot do it without you guys. So thank you so much for being part of it. Oh, by the way, for everybody who joined Status Coup when I was out there, I will be sending you a link to my short film that has not been released to the public yet. It did just premiere in Rome a week ago, so I will be sending that vertical film to you all. And smash that like button. Smash it. Show it's who's boss. Smash the like button. Tell your friends. Share with your friends. We got a poll coming out. And leave a super chat. It's just me by myself, so super chat it up so I can chat with you. That helps keep this show on the air. So we're going to start. We got a lot to talk about today. First of all, we got an update on the UAW strike. A new strike might be happening in Vegas. More Perfect Union did a report on that. We're going to look into that. Biden down in the polls already. We have an Israel-Palestine update. Net neutrality news. We got a little bit of good news, and that we're going to close with that. Little bit of good news is coming up last, and it's going to be in the digital rights realm, so I'm real excited about this. It was actually perfect that I got to host today, because this is breaking news today, so I'm real excited about a little bit of good news. A little bit of good news help, does it not? But we're going to start in the electoral realm with Cornel West, who has upset some folks over this decision. We're just going to start. Let's bring up the tweet. We'll start there. So Cornel West, as an independent candidate and a free black man, I accept donations within the limits of no PACs or corporate interest groups that have strings attached. I am unbought and unbossed. Despite my deep political differences with Brother Harlan Crow, who is an anti-Trump Republican, I've known him in a non-political setting for some years, and I pray for his precious family. I find it hypocritical for those who highlight his $3,300 donation to my campaign, but can't say a mumbling word about the PAC-driven, about the PAC-driven $1 billion to support the genocidal attack in Gaza, sponsored by their candidate. I'm fighting for truth, justice, and love. Onward. Take his point there. So here's what's going on. He accepted money from this billionaire, and there's a little bit to this guy. So here's our poll. First of all, we'll start unpacking this, and we're going to start with our poll. Our poll is, should Cornel West return the money? Yes, no, or this doesn't really matter in the scheme of things. Those are your choices. Now, if you don't know a ton about this Harlan Crow guy, which I didn't know much about him until I looked into it a little bit more today, if you don't know much about him, I will encourage you to wait until we talk about this before you vote, because you might change your mind. You might be like, well, I'm leaning towards this. And then you might be like, you might change your mind. So we're going to go through this. So who is this Harlan Crow guy? Basically, he's a billionaire real estate developer, and he supports a ton of super conservative causes. He has donated over $500,000 to trying to get Bush's Supreme Court in there. He's donated over $5 million to conservative causes. He's involved with the that No Labels group, which is just a right-wing thing. Usually when you hear people say, like, I don't subscribe to labels, it's kind of code for I'm super right-wing, but I don't want to come out and say that. So that's who this guy is. Now, okay, so Cornel West got some money from him. It's $3,300 in a presidential campaign. That's not a very high amount of money. And also it pales in comparison to what this guy usually gives. This guy usually gives way more than that. And of course, individuals aren't supposed to be allowed to do that. but there's a million different loopholes where people can get away with it anyway. And a billionaire like this guy is going to find a way to get away with it via some kind of pack or something like that. But he gave Cornel West $3,300. Now, do I think Cornel West could be bought for $3,300? No, I do not. And you guys probably already know this about me. I like Cornel West a lot. I am supportive of him. I don't understand his decision to leave the Green Party. I was very disappointed by that decision to not seek the Green nomination. I don't get why he did it. I mean, I heard his explanation, but I just don't agree with that. I think that, the one kind of glimmer of hope for 2024 is that he would be able to get the Greens to 5%. That is no longer a possibility. I understand the perspective of, well, sometimes it's easier to get on the ballot via an independent than a third party. Okay, but the difference is in each state, you're starting with just your own infrastructure and nothing more, as opposed to a built-in green infrastructure that I think is way more helpful than just starting from nothing. So I don't get the choice. So on one hand, it's not a very significant amount of money. It seems like this is a little bit nitpicky, but let's look into a little bit more about who this guy is, aside from some of the stuff I just mentioned. Let's start with the Washington article, Colin, and then we're going to go to the Rolling Stone one, because I have a little bit of question about the verbiage here. Okay, so Clarence Thomas, billionaire benefactor, that's this Harlan Crow guy, collects Hitler artifacts. All right, that's that's an interesting hobby. All right, go ahead and scroll down. So when Republican mega donor Harlan Crow isn't lavishing Justice Clarence Thomas with free trips on his private plane and yacht, he lives a quiet life in Dallas among his historical collections. These collections include Hitler artifacts, 2 of his paintings of European cityscapes, a signed copy of Mein Kampf, and assorted Nazi memorabilia, plus a garden full of statues of the 20th century's worst despots. Crow, the billionaire heir to a real estate fortune, has said that he's filled his properties with these mementos because he hates communism and fascism. So he is saying this is a historic thing. He hates both communism and fascism. I don't know if he realizes that one of those defeated the other one, but whatever. We don't have time to unpack all that. Nonetheless, his collections caused an uproar. Gee, I wonder why. So I still can't get over the collection of Nazi memorabilia. Now let's go to the Rolling Stone piece now, Colin. Let's jump over there. So his excuse for all this, or not excuse, but his rationale is that he collects these things from a historic perspective. Can we go to the Rolling Stone piece, Colin? Or are we there? Is this the Rolling Stone piece? If it is, scroll down. Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. So here's where I get a little bit confused here. Bear with me through these paragraphs, y'all. The news of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's unethical friendship with GOP mega donor Harlan Crow, more details about the Texas real estate mogul have emerged, including a report that Crow is an avid collector of Hitler items. The Washingtonian, that's the article we were just at, on Friday resurfaced a 2014 article where a tour of Crow's Dallas area mansion revealed the billionaire's historic collection includes a startling amount of Nazi memorabilia, including a copy of Mein Kampf signed by the author himself. That would be Adolf Hitler, if any of you didn't know. I'm sure you already did, but, just to be clear, a pair of the failed artist turned dictator cityscape paintings, Nazi medallions, swastika embossed linens, and more. Somehow less alarming, but still strange, is the Garden of Evil in Crow's backyard, where statues of infamous despots like Romanian dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, Yugoslav dictator Joseph Broz Tito, and Russians Joseph Stalin and Vladimir Lenin reside. So now here's where I have a little bit of a pause. Looking at the way this is written, and I don't know if it's just like a little bit of awkward writing or what, it almost sounds like they're implying that the Nazi stuff isn't in the Garden of Evil. Like, this guy has a Garden of Evil where he's like, hey, I'm an avid history guy. I have this Garden of Evil, and it's supposed to be stuff that I deem evil. And you're walking through it, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is some evil stuff. You got Nazi stuff here. Oh, wait. No, we're not in the Garden of Evil yet. let me put it this way. If I was at somebody's house for dinner and they had a Garden of Evil from a historic standpoint, I'd find that a little strange. I'd be like, I think maybe this belongs in a museum, but okay. And then if I walked along with them and I found out that the Nazi stuff didn't qualify for the Garden of Evil, that didn't make the cut, I'm leaving that house. That's what I'm saying. You know what? I gotta go. I'm gonna go now. See you later. The Nazi, the most evil, the most evil chapter in human history, arguably, didn't make the Garden of Evil. The guy, the Nazis almost made it. Maybe next year, but no, we're not quite at the Garden of Evil act. At the Garden of Evil yet. This is the opener. Like, all right, creepy pants Magoo. I'm pretty sure Nazis qualify many times over for the Garden of Evil. So my point here, kind of putting a bow on all this. We live in a land of sound bites. That's just how it is here in the United States. People have a memory of about 48 hours, and that's being generous. And we live in a world of sound bites, especially when it comes to political elections. And I understand you need money to run for president. I totally get that. But $3,300 is definitely not worth, and this is just like an objective take here, it is not worth somebody who's looking to smear Cornel West being able to use this in their arsenal. Just speaking purely from a political standpoint here, not worth it at all. And so, and I get it that Cornel West is all about building bridges and things like that. But I feel like in this case, it's not worth having any affiliation whatsoever with this guy. I mean, having different politics and be like, and look, I doubt that this guy giving Cornel West a dime was altruistic. Now, keep in mind, to this guy, given $3,300, that would be like me giving you a quarter or you giving me a quarter. That's nothing to this guy. It pales in comparison to what he usually gives. So it's not like this is some huge gesture. And it's not like Cornel West would be bought now by this guy. But, I mean, the stigma that would come with that, totally not worth it. That's my take. I think it's best if he just is like, no, thank you. Look, I'm not, you make some choices that I just cannot get behind. And I don't really want that affiliated with my campaign. But cast your vote now. Fill out the poll or feel free to leave a super chat. Give your take on the whole thing. What do you think? Should he give it back? Should he keep it? Is it really not that important in the big scheme of things? Make your voice heard. We'll be visiting the poll throughout the other stories today. And now we're going to go to another poll, not the one we're filling out, but this is a different one. We're going to go to the latest poll in the 2024 election that I have a feeling is going to be just a total shit show of an election by far. This is the one election where there's really nothing I'm looking forward to. Like in my lifetime, there was always some amount of like, hey, there's reason for some hope. I mean, the past two election cycles, we had Bernie. In 2012, there was the hope that, maybe Obama's actually going to do what he said he was going to do. In 2008, there was Kucinich in the primary, and also the hope that Obama was going to do what he said he was going to do. 2004, there was like, let's just get Bush out of there. This time around, it's just like, oh my God, really? This is going to be. But anyway, let's go to this new poll that shows where Joe Biden's at. Biden's not looking so great. Trump is up +4 in swing states. Look at Colin on the ones and twos doing that fancy pants thing, moving me over. Look at the awesome views you guys have now. Isn't that cool? Best to handle the economy. Trump is up by 14. Trump, the guy, he's not even showing up to debates. He's been, I mean, how many times, like how many charges are there at this point? Is anyone still like what's even going on there? Wow. Bidenomics, which by the way is nothing. Bidenomics is a meaningless term that a very, very boring market research group for Joe Biden made up. Bidenomics is Reaganomics. What is Reaganomics? Neoliberal nonsense. It is half-baked pretzel logic bullshit on how to run an economy that basically just says, just let rich people do whatever they want. And we're gonna have a bunch of flowery rhetoric in here to make it sound good to just let rich people do whatever the hell they want. We're liberating the market. No, you're not. You're letting rich people do whatever the hell they want. And that's not good for an economy. So Bidenomics, the made up thing that makes no sense. Plus 23 people are saying that's bad for the economy as opposed to good. So Biden is not faring so well. And as we already know, they're not going to have a real primary. They're not going to do that. We're going to kind of just get a scam primary. But here's the thing. There are some people waiting in the wings in case Joe Biden just decides that he can't run again. Which, by the way, keep in mind, Joe Biden said he wasn't going to run a second time. He said he wasn't going to do that. Will he keep that promise? I don't know. I mean, a promise from Joe Biden isn't worth a whole hell of a lot, folks. He didn't do most of the measly promises he made. He has broken most of them. To be fair, not all of them. Most of them, yeah. So, I don't know. He's probably going to run again as of right now. But here is one of the people waiting in the wings for Joe Biden to say he's not going to run again. Let's pull up the Gavin Newsom article, and then we're gonna kind of pivot into some Israel-Palestine news. But let's start with Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is going to be the transition because Gavin Newsom, governor of California, is on his way to Israel. Can we pull up that headline, Colin? So Governor Gavin Newsom, look how nice his hair looks. Governor Gavin Newsom is traveling to Israel. The governor will meet with victims of the war. California Governor Gavin Newsom is traveling to Israel on Thursday to meet with victims of the Israel-Hamas war on Friday, his administration said. Newsom will stop in Israel ahead of a planned trip to China next week. The governor adjusted his planned international trip and will briefly visit Israel ahead of going to China. While in Israel, the governor will meet with those impacted by the violence. So this is a guy looking for his presidential moments. And I can really speak firsthand to this because Governor Gavin Newsom is basically using California to get ready to run for president either in 2024 or 2028. He is basically holding our state hostage because here's the deal. In California, we elected a relatively progressive state legislature, and they put together a relatively progressive package that most Californians want. And Gavin Newsom vetoed about 30% of everything. Why did he do that? Is that what most Californians wanted? No, it's not. It completely thumbs its nose at the will of California. He did it because he's worried about what people in Iowa will think. He did it because he wants to use it to run for president. And he's been doing this to California for a long time. Let's go to that aside real quick. The article about Governor Newsom. Which big California bills did Newsom veto? Go ahead, scroll down here, Colin. So there he is, up against an October 14th deadline. Blah blah blah. Let's go straight down to the bills, because there's a summary of the bills. So here's some of the things he vetoed. Juror pay, though he praised the measures aimed to create a more justice system. In his veto message, he said no to expanding to more counties a program to raise the daily stipend. Cannabis cafes, because, you don't want to be too cannabis friendly. Case discrimination, decriminalizing psychedelics. So that's, you don't want to, mushrooms. That goes too far. Public record ombudsman. I always stumble over that word. Social housing, homeless youth housing, hearing aids, insulin prices, and perinatal care. So he also vetoed a bill for transgender youth that really threw them under the bus. We're going to get to this in a second. Here's the one he did sign, just to be fair. But among the other things he vetoed, he threw workers under the bus with an automation bill. And he threw transgender people under the bus with a bill in regards to parenting in schools. Don't scroll down yet, Colin. Scroll back up. And he threw. There was something else he did that really well. And then of course the healthcare stuff. Now here's some of the stuff he did do. These are some of the stuff that he signed. He signed something for water rights. If you could scroll up a little more, Colin. A measure that spells out the state's powers to investigate water rights claims and allows the California Water Board to take action against unauthorized water users. Renter rights. Cities and counties will no longer be able to enact housing programs that encourage to require landlords to evict or penalize tenants who have interactions with law enforcement. Workers' rights. He screwed over some workers' rights too, but there's a few things he did sign. Same in the LGBTQ space. There's a couple bills that he did sign, but then there's other ones that he didn't. And the ones that he did were the ones that didn't push it a little bit further, basically. So, so there's something that he did sign in regards to wage claims, something for junk fees, unions. So he did sign some things that were good, sure, but he didn't sign anything that might not play too well in swing states, despite the fact that it's what California wants. So Gavin Newsom is campaigning for president right now. Will it be 2024? Will it be 2028? It's going to be one of those two. Personally, I hope it's as soon as possible, not because I think he'd make a good president. I think he'd be a terrible president, but because I just want him out of California. I just want California to have an opportunity to get a slightly less shitty governor. And while we could potentially get even worse, I think we could do better. I have confidence California could do better than Gavin Newsom. Maybe not much, but better. I mean, there's better governors now in the U.S. that are better than Gavin Newsom. So, and there's worse ones too. I mean, he does sign some good things. Everything I wanted him to sign right after the recall, he did sign. So that was good. He signed the muni broadband bill. He signed a good climate bill. So it's not 100% bad, but a lot of the things that California wanted, he said, no. I don't know how that's going to play in Iowa. So screw you. I'm not interested in doing my job. I know my job's to be a governor. I'm not interested in doing it. So, okay, Gavin Newsom, noted. So let's go over to Israel, Palestine. Of course, we have. It's completely terrible what's going on. Let's start with the CNN ticker. That's a regular ticker that they have, giving updates. Of course, it's corporate updates, so it's take it with the grain of salt. But we'll start there, and then we also have a story about two Israeli families. So just a lot of terrible things happening. First, before we go there, let's do something a little more fun, since we're going to get into something pretty bleak here in just a second. How's the poll doing, Colin?
So far, we have had a little over 100 people vote. We got 45% say yes, Cornel should give the money back, 28% say no, and 26% say doesn't matter.
Okay. All right. Duly noted. We'll do the final totals. I personally, where are you at, Colin? What's your vote?
My vote is to give it back. Like, technically it doesn't matter, but it's not worth all this trouble. So just
that's where I'm at now. And the reason I said, I was like, wait until we talk about it to vote. I originally was kind of like, I don't think this matters in the scheme of things. But then when I saw like some of the stigmas attached to this guy that could be used to smear Cornel, I was like, yeah, it's not worth. I mean, just return it.
You got to have at least a little bit of political sense there.
Yeah, from a political standpoint, it doesn't. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. Granted, I'm a guy who's never run a political campaign and has no interest in ever doing so, but I don't understand that choice. Just like I don't understand the choice to leave the Green Party either, or to not seek the Green Party nomination. So, yeah. All right. Let's go to Israel, Palestine. And God, I got to say, as Colin's pulling this up, I really thought, and maybe I was just overly optimistic here, folks. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I really thought as a society, we were getting a little bit better as far as addressing these issues in a less war propagandized way. I mean, for so long, there was just that overarching stigma of, oh, you can't criticize the Israeli government or you're anti-Semitic, which is ridiculous beyond comprehension. That is ridiculous. That is so untrue. That is insulting to people's intelligence. And by the way, it's very insulting to all the Jewish people who are opposed to what the Israeli government is doing. There's been tons of protest in Israel, here in the United States, too, of people not in our name. It's so insulting to those to people, to Jewish people who are calling for peace. I mean, I don't think we even need to go on a thing about how ridiculous it is. And I really thought we were turning a better chapter just as a society to really have a discussion around what's going on with this. And man, the stuff I've seen on social media the past week, I feel like, nope, just kidding. We're still completely freaking ridiculous. Beyond comprehension. Beyond comprehension. We're still ridiculous. I hope I'm wrong. I hope, man, but it's hard not to feel frustrated. Let's pull up the ticker, the CNN ticker. Again, take this with the grain of salt that this is worth, because this is from Jello Biafra. I recently interviewed Jello Biafra on my podcast, shameless plug, and he uses this coin of phrase that I really appreciate. He calls it corporate McNews. I like that. That's a good one. Corporate McNews. I think I'm gonna borrow that. Credit to Jello Biafra for saying that to me first. All right, so Israel's credit rating. Oh, this is their latest update. This gets updated regularly, folks, so we're seeing it in real time. Their newest update, Israel's credit rating could possibly be downgraded. Wow, like you couldn't parody this stuff. Innocent people are freaking dying. The Palestinian death toll is at about 3,700. Last time I looked, and it's probably higher than that, because that's what you're getting from the corporate outlets. 2 Israeli families died as well. And so there's innocent people dying all across. They're talking about credit ratings. Wow. Here's one from 8 minutes ago. At least 18 Ukrainians killed in Hamas attack on Israel. At least 18 Ukrainian nationals have died. Scroll up. Let's see what else is going on here, or down, whichever way you were going. Israel airstrike in central Gaza kills at least 10 people. And I mean, they're bombing people in Gaza who have nothing to do with anything. These are just innocent people trying to live their lives that are subjected to these conditions all the time. At least 21 journalists have been killed during this, the Israel-Hamas conflict. Committee to Protect Journalists says. Wow. An 80-year-old Israeli-American woman was killed by Hamas. So we just have death and destruction everywhere. And, of course, we only get the one side of it in the corporate McNews sphere. We only get the one, we get such a filtered side where they don't really tell the story of what Israel is really doing in Gaza, which is starving millions of people who have nothing to do with anything and are just trying to live their lives. And, I am against any innocent people dying anywhere. But, you got to look at what's going on in this situation. Palestinian civilians are dying all the freaking time. And we have Israelis dying as well. So let's see what some of the folks in America are saying about this. Let's see what they're saying. Let's go to, should we do the good or the bad first, Colin? The good, of course, is Rashida Tlaib. The bad, of course, is, all right, you picked for me. Colin's like, I don't want to talk to you, dude. I'm just going to pull something up. You do it. There you are.
I figure we'd warm into the worst is pretty bad. So I figure we give people some.
Fair enough, my friend. I like it. All right. So Rashida Tlaib, to her credit, and there's some other folks in Congress too. But Rashida Tlaib is saying, thank you to our Jewish allies from across the country who joined in solidarity to a call for ceasefire now, chanting not in our name. So, by the way, this is some of the stuff I'm talking about. When you hear people repeat that propaganda, that criticizing the right-wing, brutal Israeli government that is committing a genocide against Palestinians is somehow anti-Semitic, you show them stuff like this. Let's scroll down a little bit so people can see. These are Jewish protesters calling for a ceasefire, saying not in our name. There are Jewish peace groups domestically here in the United States. There are Jewish peace groups in Israel that are against what their government is doing, just like there's people in the United States who are against what their government is doing. And this is a powerful thing. Look at this. And there have been protests like this all across the United States. There was a big one here in LA. There was a big one in New York. Someone asked if that was Jewish Voices for Peace. I'm not sure if that was like exclusively them or if they were involved. That was their.
It was organized by Jewish Voices for Peace.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know they organize a lot of these things. That's a wonderful organization. I've got to interview some folks from that organization before. So Rashida Tlaib is calling for a ceasefire, which credit where credit is due. There's other members of Congress and our government that are doing that. That's awesome. Of course, I mean, Joe Biden's not or anything like that, but some people are. Now, here is the other side, and here is a very tragic take from John Fetterman. Let's go to Fetterman's. Now is not the time. This is from John Fetterman, supposedly a progressive. Now I know it's a mixed bag on John Fetterman. I mean, and I get it. If you're in Pennsylvania, it was him or Dr. Oz. I freaking get it. I'm from Pennsylvania. I knew some people that were celebrating, even though they weren't thrilled about Fetterman. They're like, Oz would have been a freaking train wreck. And I get that. Tweets like this, however, I mean, this is indistinguishable from something I would expect Dr. Oz to say. Here's what John Fetterman has to say about this issue. Now is not the time to talk about a ceasefire. We must support Israel in efforts to eliminate the Hamas terrorists who slaughtered innocent men, women, and children. How does starving Palestinian children accomplish that, John Fetterman? Hamas does not want peace. They want to destroy Israel. We can talk about a ceasefire after Hamas is neutralized. This has the same vibe as whenever there's another, like whenever something happens like a school shooting or a mass shooting, now's not the time to talk about doing anything about the system we have that allows this to keep happening. When is the time? When is the time to talk about a ceasefire? When is the time to talk about what's going on and how messed up this situation is? And that it's not okay what the Israeli government is doing? When is the time to talk about that? If not when another tragedy happens where innocent people die. When is the time? It just doesn't make any sense. That'll be the pull. When's the time? Now's not the you hear that about everything. Now's not the time to vote for a candidate that's better than a floating turd. Now's not the time to really have a discussion about what's going on in Israel, Palestine. Now's not the time to talk about what's really going on with the gun culture in the United States. Now's not the time. When is the time? Tell me the time. I'll meet you there. It's like what Bill Hicks used to say, where they would be like, people don't want to think in comedy clubs. Well, where do you like to think? I'll go and I'll meet you there. When is the frickin' time? And I mean, I feel like John Fetterman, and I was always disappointed because he was wishy-washy on fracking. He was wishy-washy on single payer healthcare. So I was never like super enthusiastic about the guy. I get that Dr. Oz was the alternative. I get it. If I'm not going to lecture you if you voted for John Fetterman, like whatever. I totally get it. But he gives me the vibe of just like every decision he makes was just decided by some really boring focus group. The same focus group that coined Bidenomics writes John Fetterman's tweets. That's what I think. It's the same boring focus group sponsored by the DNC. And I mean, Fetterman also got a lot of there was actually a tweet, I think it was from Ryan Grimm, that talked about. I'm going to look it up real quick. I didn't get to. I know I didn't get it to you in time for prep, Colin, but let me look it up real quick. And while I'm doing that, Colin, give an update on. Oh, here it is. Actually, I got it. But Colin, before I get to it, give an update on the poll. Where are we at? How are the votes looking?
Right now, we're got up to 140 votes. We're up to 47% say yes, Cornel should give the money back. No is at 27%, tied with doesn't matter at 27%.
All right.
27%.
27%.
What was the name?
Say it doesn't matter. There's more important things.
Of the guy.
The guy is what was it? It was like Crow or something like that. Here, hold on. Let me pull it up real quick. I forget his name off the top of my head. It was Harlan Crow.
That's right.
Harlan Crow. So that was the guy's name. All right. So this is a Ryan Grimm tweet. I refuse to call it X. I don't care if I mispronounce tweet from now until eternity. I'm calling it frickin' Twitter and their tweets. They're not X posts. All right. Ryan Grimm tweeted this. Some background on what John Fetterman is doing during his... Oh, you got it. Oh, thanks, Colin. Some background on what John Fetterman is doing during his primary against the centrist candidate. Calling Connor Lamb a centrist is actually pretty generous. His campaign allowed Democratic majority for Israel to make edits to his Israel-Palestine platform, hoping to keep DMFI and AIPAC from spending its support to Connor Lamb. So basically, he's, he doesn't want to displease the Israel lobbyists, the pro-Israeli government lobbyists. Fetterman was receptive to addressing in a second draft. That's the kind of that's the kind of dedication you like to see. You're giving me money? Just write it for me. I wear hoodies. I'm relatable. Nice. All right. So that's, and those kind of takes, unfortunately, still play in American politics. Those ridiculous, so slanted and based in war propaganda to just be like, oh yeah, no, we just got to support Israel. That's what this is. There's no more to it. It's such, I mean, calling it an oversimplification is an understatement. That's too gentle for what it is. It's war propaganda. That's what it is. It's war propaganda. And man, I've always said this. I have not seen enough of the world to say whether or not the U.S. is the most war propagandized nation in the world. I can't say that definitively. There's too many countries I don't have enough information or exposure to. I will say it's definitely the most war propagandized country I've ever been in. And I will also say, if there is a country more war propagandized than the United States, I don't want to go there. I would never want to go there. I don't care how pretty the beaches are, how good the food is. If there's a country out there more war propagandized than the United States, I don't need to go there. I don't know if there is. If there is, I certainly haven't been there. I know that much. But yeah. So let's keep moving along to our topics here today, because we got some more stuff to go through. Let's go to some labor. We got some labor. And let's pull up the headline from Jordan real quick before we get off of because this is breaking news from today. Let's pull up the CBS News headline about those Israeli families who were killed. We did mention it already in the summary, but we'll also kind of pull up the headline there. Israel says Noya and Carmela Dan, girl and grandmother with Massachusetts ties, found dead. This is from Boston. So these people have Massachusetts ties. Israel says 13-year-old Noah Dan and her grandmother, 80-year-old Carmela Dan, have been found dead after they were taken hostage by Hamas. They were relatives of Needham resident Jason Greenberg. So this whole thing's a freaking mess. This whole thing is a freaking mess, but it's time to talk about what's really going on. And it's time to demand a ceasefire. And it's time to address what Israel, the government of Israel, is doing to the Palestinian people. so that innocent people stop dying. And, you know, I mean, innocent Palestinians have died, innocent Israeli citizens have died, and this is just freaking nuts. And it's time to have a real conversation and, you know, be a Rashida Tlaib here, not a John Fetterman. Be a Rashida Tlaib calling for a ceasefire, calling it for what it is, instead of a John Fetterman subscribing to war propaganda. And that's really disappointing to see from John Fetterman. So, all right, let's go to some labor. It's time for some labor. We have a UAW update. Now, of course, the UAW. So people are asking about the Cornel West stuff. Guys, don't forget to vote. I'm gonna channel my Barack Obama. Don't forget to vote. Vote in the poll. Do you think Cornel West should return the money, or should he keep it, or doesn't it matter? Don't forget to vote. All right, let's go. Let's go to the UAW. Of course, the UAW was we here at Status Coup, we covered the UAW strike for 25 days. 25 days we covered that strike. I was on the ground for 4 of them. John Farina was on the ground the whole frickin' time. That guy did 21 days. He had restaurant recommendations in Detroit. He became an unofficial local. The folks at the hotel were on a first name basis with him. He stuck it out for 25 days. Jordan was on the ground for a while. Tina was on the ground for a while. I was on the ground for a while. And it was an amazing experience. It really was. And again, thank you. And guys, I will mention real quick, that's what happens when you become a member of Status Coup. So please, if you are able, please consider becoming a member. When you become a member of Status Coup, you are funding on-the-ground journalism. StatusCoup.com/join, $5 a month or $10 a month. Just to give you a perspective, that's 16 cents a day or 33 cents a day. Now, I know times are tough. And for some people, that might be too much right now. I get it. I totally get it. So if that's not you, that's fine. Like these streams, share these streams, make sure you're subscribed. That goes a long way. That helps out a lot. But if you got that to spare, if you got an extra $5 or $10 a month to spare, know that it's going to fund on-the-ground journalism. It's going so that we can bring you firsthand stories and then bring them back here in studio and give you live streams every weekday. And on-the-ground journalism takes resources. It takes travel. It takes logistics. It takes planning. It takes equipment. It takes a lot of resources. That's why most outlets don't do it. Most outlets that don't do it, even the corporate McNews ones that have unlimited resources, they don't do it because it takes resources. But at Status Coup, well, we know how important that is. We know that it's an important lane to fill, and we're happy to fill it. But we can't do it without your help. So please, if you are able, statuscoup.com/join. And here's an update on the UAW strike. The GM, here's the GM perspective here. They have their perspective that they're just giving you everything they can. That's I'm looking for the Detroit Free Press article, call it if you would. Basically, General Motors is saying that they already gave a historic offer. The GM exec says they already gave historic offer to UAW. Can't meet all of Fain's demands. All of Sean Fain, UAW president, of course, all of his demands, which, by the way, are all reasonable things they shouldn't have to ask for. They're things people should just have, just like all these strikes. Every single strike, there has not been one case where what people are asking for are things they shouldn't even have to ask for. A pension, a living wage, vacation time that a human being should be entitled to, fair policies in regards to time off and hours worked. In some cases, they're not even asking for that much. So a General Motors executive said on Thursday that the company cannot meet all of the UAW's demands in the ongoing strike without a devastating impact on jobs. They're saying, oh, it's going to hurt the jobs, we swear. In a video published on GMnegotiations2023.com, Gerald Johnson, GM's Executive Vice President of Global Manufacturing and Sustainability, outlined the automaker's current offer to UAW, sending a message that it's compelling and historic. The offer will give a 20% wage increase to workers across the life of the contract, pushing most up to $39.24 an hour, among other benefits that UAW President Sean Fain has demanded. Okay, so they're doing a wage increase. That's great. But they need more than that, okay? They're calling to get their COLA back. Their COLA is the cost of living accounts. It takes cost of living into account when they're getting raises. They're calling for their pensions. They're calling for an end to the tier system where different employees are making different wages for the same work. They're calling for an end to that. They're calling for an end of temporary employees being temps for way too long. You hear situations, and you can go to our footage. We interviewed people that were that had to deal with this, where you're treated like a temp for years so they can exploit you more and pay you less. They're calling for an end to that. And keep in mind, these are all things that they gave up in the past. In 2008, they were asked to make sacrifices, and they made those sacrifices. And they said, well, when things get better, we'll roll it back. Don't worry. Well, guess what? It's been long enough. Time to roll it back. Time to give it back. And they're not doing that. They're being stubborn. They're like, oh, this is historic. We're going to raise the wages. Well, guess what? You got to do more than that. Otherwise, we'll fall into this same trap again. We need the COLA. We need to know that wages are going up when cost of living does, which cost of living always does. Wages have remained stagnant. You know what hasn't remained stagnant? Groceries, healthcare costs, you name it. Cat treats. I don't know if you heard my cat. My cat just meowed. Cat treats are... I actually don't know if cat treats are going up or not because Lucy, she cannot have traditional cat treats. We have alternative types of cat treats for her, because of a stomach issue that she has had in her old age. So we can't take the risk. We just give her some kibble instead as a treat. She likes it. She likes it. Every now and again, I do give her a cat treat anyway, even though, all right, enough cat talk. I know some of you like it. Some of you are like, shut up. I'm like, okay. By the way, I will give an aside. If you're thinking about fostering a cat, this is a great time to do it, because it is the month of October. And as disgusting as it is, there are still people out there that like to abide by bizarre superstitions from hundreds of years ago and are cruel to black cats during this month. In fact, there's some shelters, they will not let you get a black cat during the month of October. It's disgusting. We live in that world. It really is. But sadly, we do. So if you're thinking about fostering a cat, or adopting a cat, really, or fostering, I guess either one, but adopting was what I meant. Now's a really good time to do it. And fostering any cat or kitten is awesome. But if it's all the same, maybe migrate to a black one, because black cats, it takes them the longest to get adopted. That's statistically true. Black cats do face more persecution. Literally, people will still do effed up things to black cats, especially during the month of October. It's disgusting. That's still a reality, but it is. My cat, Lucy, was a stray who wandered into my house many years ago. I was in college. It was a college house, and she ran into our house in October. It was actually October that she showed up. And sometimes I wonder what her life would have been like had she wandered into the wrong house. But she wandered into mine. And I'd like to think it was a good thing. Come here, Luce. Come on. She just started walking away when I went to pick her up. Really? Come on. I'm telling this story about you. Come on. Just give me 1 second. Say hello real quick. Then you can do whatever you want. Either stay on my lap or say, this is my girl. This is my precious girl. And her running into my house many Octobers ago, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. Seriously. One of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. You know, and every day I wake up next to Lucy and my wife. So even when I'm having a tough time, as soon as I wake up, I am reminded of basically the two best things that ever happened to me in my life. So anyway, all right, enough about that. PSA over about black cats in October. Or anytime, really. Anytime's a good time to get a cat. Do it. All right. So, here's the deal. The UAW, the companies are losing more money than they would if they just gave the UAW what they want. And the UAW isn't asking for anything unreasonable. It's all reasonable what they're asking for. Every single thing. And these companies are making it, it'll hurt jobs. And don't fall for it, because that is BS. That's a freaking lie. And they're only saying that to try to pit the workers against each other. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to pit workers against each other. So workers are like, the unions aren't looking out for us. They're hurting our jobs. That's how they've instilled 50 years of anti-union rhetoric in the United States. They have convinced people that the unions aren't in their best interest. That's what this is. That's what, not Detroit Free Press reporting on it, but what GM is trying to say here. It is anti-union propaganda. It's the oldest PR trick in the playbook. Do not fall for it. It's just a lie. Straight up. It's a lie. They're losing more money than it would cost them to just give the workers what they want. But they're short-sighted. They only think about their short-term profits. They want to exploit. So they're not just doing the right thing, basically. So there you go. Let's go to another labor story. Let's go to the Vegas video from More Perfect Union. Oh, and before we do, Colin, update on the poll. How we doing? If you have not voted yet, make sure you vote. Make sure you vote. Grab a clipboard, except you don't need a clipboard. Just fill out the thing on YouTube.
Yeah, we're up to almost to 200 votes. We're at 188 votes.
Nice.
We're at 46% now say yes, 27% still say no, and now 28% say doesn't matter.
It's like doesn't matter. I mean, even though I did go from doesn't matter to yes, I kind of get doesn't matter a little bit, because it's like by the time it's 2024, this will likely be long forgotten. But people are always looking for a smear clip. I mean, there are people who didn't vote for Bernie because of like some fiction he wrote when he was in his 20s or something. There are people who didn't vote for Bernie because of Liz Warren going, he said this at a dinner.
They're counting on people not to vote for him based on seeing him in a bathing suit.
Right. And so it's like we live in a land of sound bites where, yeah. So I think it's just not worth it. All right. So let's pull up the More Perfect Union video, Colin. And by the way, Colin, your facial hair is really on point. I just want to say that as an aside. I just noticed it. And there you go. Look at you. Yeah. No, it's on point, man. It's looking really good. Start a new poll. Colin's facial hair. Is it a 10 or an 11? It's out of 10, by the way. 10, or you don't actually have to put that poll in there unless you want to.
It just had to take me get into my 30s to be able to grow it, but
hey, man. Well, it's on point, man. I like it. It's a good look for you. All right. So let's get to the More Perfect Union video about Vegas, baby. This is happening in Vegas. It looks like there's some more striking a brewing here in the United States. More Perfect Union put this video together, and it kind of unpacks this story here of what is going on. So we're going to talk about More Perfect Union, what's going on in Vegas, and then our final story of the day is a little bit of good news about net neutrality. But yeah, let's go to that More Perfect Union video, Colin.
I think nobody really understands how hard this work is. It's a big convention coming in or a big convention checking out. They don't have enough housekeepers, then you're required to do mandatory overtime. Whether you want to or not, it's mandatory.
It has really just impacted my mental. It has been a mental game, a mental gymnastics for the past 2 years.
Después de la pandemia estamos trabajando más horas porque no hay el suficiente personal que quiera hacer ese trabajo. So, aunque no queramos, aunque estemos cansadas, si nos dan overtime tenemos que hacerlo de todos modos. No importa si no tiene tiempo uno para la familia o para hacer nuestras cosas personales, sí se trabaja más horas ahorita.
They are taking advantage of our time 1,000%. Instead of us having days to maintain the room and make sure that every trash from that day is gone, linen from that day is gone, we have to do double the work, and we don't know what we are walking into until they check out.
A mí me gusta mi trabajo, me encanta mi trabajo, pero no nos gusta la explotación que nos están haciendo. Nada, nada de eso es normal. Nosotros ya estamos cansados, cansadísimos, no tenemos una vida normal, que tengamos que llegar a casa después del trabajo, de relajarnos, de estar bien.
Everybody go home exhausted. They have no energies for the family, for them to, share time with the kids.
Si tienes un accidente, te lastimas, te quieren dar también una disciplina. ¿Por qué? Porque te lastimaste. Pero es por eso nos lastimamos, por tanta carga de trabajo, porque tenemos que terminar. Si no terminas, nos dan disciplina. Tenemos que actuar, tenemos que ganar esto. Necesitamos más seguridad. Necesitamos, por favor, esa comprensión de todos los manejamientos, de los casinos, porque es demasiado lo que están haciendo con nosotros.
Same story. I mean, people are being overworked. They're being exploited. They're having no... And it is time that people start addressing the quality of life that is being stolen from Americans. When I was on the ground covering the UAW with Status Coup, I learned an awful lot. And the thing that really hit me hardest, and you can go, I forget which day it was, but you go back and check those streams. Those streams were a lot of fun. There was some really cool stuff, especially on Saturday during the rally. The guy from Rise Against played a couple tunes. But look, the most stunning thing was one of the supervisors or team leads was telling me about his day-to-day. And an average day for him was 4:30 to 5:30. He only had to work 1 hour. No, I'm kidding. He worked from 4:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. every day. Sometimes 6 or 7 days a week. And that's what they ask of people. And it is freaking nuts. And I'm sorry, that wouldn't happen in France. That wouldn't happen in Italy. That wouldn't happen in Germany or Canada. That wouldn't happen in Mexico. I mean, these companies are completely exploiting people, and they want you in a situation where you have no freaking choice. And they want people too broken or scared to demand better, to demand basic human dignity. We're basically already at feudalism. We're already there. It's not we're heading there. It's we're freaking there. The average American has less time off than a medieval peasant did. So these strikes are not just about winning good contracts. These strikes are about the future of freaking labor in this country and whether or not we're going to have a chance to build a middle class again. Because it's not about saving the middle class. The middle class is gone. It's over. And that's why a lot of people in my generation, that's why a lot of us are becoming, a lot of people in my generation are becoming more lefty than they might have been 10 years ago. And the Zoomers are super lefty because they don't know anything except for just the disasters of, the disasters of capitalism. But my generation, we were a pretty lefty generation because, we lived through Iraq. We lived through all these recessions. But I feel like we're getting even more left. I'm an older millennial, old, if you will. And I feel like we're getting even more left. And you know why that is? It's because we are just old enough. We are just old enough. Some of us lived through the tail end of what middle-class America was. Because our parents were part of it. Our parents were part of middle-class America when such a thing existed. And they had honest jobs and they worked and but they had dignity. They had vacation time and good benefits, and they were able to raise a family and buy a house. They didn't get anything except for what they deserved. So I am just old enough to have experienced that as a child. I'm just old enough to have been cognizant of it as I grew up. And then very quickly, I realized that that world didn't exist for me. That world existed a little bit less for Gen X. And it existed a lot less for me, for the millennials. And for the Zoomers, it doesn't exist at all. So these strikes are about way more than just winning contracts. And it does it, whether it's hotel workers in Vegas, hotel workers in LA, auto workers in Detroit, auto workers in Anaheim, whether it's writers in Hollywood or actors in Hollywood, whether it's teachers in Oklahoma or California or anywhere, whether it's fast food workers, whether it's Starbucks, they are all connected. Because this is about reclaiming what it means to live and work in this freaking country. Because we're past the breaking point, folks. We are past it. So we'll keep an eye on this and other strikes. And hey, who knows? Maybe, just maybe. I mean, Status Coup is kind of spread out throughout the country, and Vegas is not super far for Tina and myself. So who knows? Maybe that'll be our next on the ground trip. Not sure. Tough to say. StatusCoup.com/joy would help us get there. Just saying. Guys, I will get to your super chats in just a second. But first, and by the way, feel free to leave a super chat. I'll get to all of them. And we'll also go through the poll. But first, we're going to end today's show with a little bit of freaking good news. Guys, you got to take the wins when you get them. And we have a little bit of a win here. You guys know me. I'm very passionate about digital rights. Something I've been on the front lines about for literally about 20 years now is an issue called net neutrality. Net neutrality is what keeps the internet free and open and neutral, meaning that an internet service provider can't discriminate between websites where they make one website load faster than another based on its ability to pay. They can't do that. Every website needs to be treated the same. We've had net neutrality since the advent of the internet. We tried to get it signed into law for years. They wouldn't make it a formal law. Finally, the cable companies tried to push their luck. The court ruled in favor of the cable companies, saying they didn't have to follow net neutrality, but public outcry was so great, we got net neutrality on the books in 2015. Trump's FCC undid net neutrality in 2017. We've been fighting to get it back. We got it back on the state levels in some states, including where I live in California, but we're trying to get it back on the federal level. Joe Biden promised to appoint a pro-net neutrality FCC after 3 years. Usually these appointments take a couple weeks after someone's elected. Took Biden 3 years. But finally, after 3 years and a bunch of BS, we finally got that pro-net neutrality appointment, and this happened. Let's go to the tweet first, Colin, and then we'll go to the FCC docket. Breaking, the FTC. Now, by the way, this is a typo. They meant FCC, not FTC. That's not the FTC. That's the FCC. So they have a typo, but this is still a good thread. The FCC has voted to assert its net neutrality authority. By a 3-2 vote, the commission has just paved the way for new net neutrality regulations to be implemented next year. Go ahead and scroll down. A big fight still lies ahead with the Internet and Television Association, which represents cable providers, including Comcast and Charter. These giant firms will likely sponsor a legal battle, which could go to the Supreme Court. But the argument for net neutrality is that internet providers are meant to act as pipes for the data the same way phone companies do for calls. Therefore, providers shouldn't be able to slow service for one website or provider and speed it up for another. Good thread on the topic. And just to kind of give you like a really quick summary, if it wasn't for net neutrality, shows like this wouldn't be able to exist. So if you care about indie media at all, you should be full-throatedly in support of net neutrality. And it is a very important issue. Where can you go to keep the pressure up to make sure that the FCC comes out with a win here? You can go to battleforthenet.com and sign right now The FCC is moving forward to restore net neutrality. This is the chance we've had to win a free and open internet. Sign it now, battleforthenet.com. And real quick, let's just read the FCC summary really quick here, Colin, just so people know exactly what happened today. This happened today. So FCC votes to start proceeding on reestablishing open internet protections. The FCC today launched a new presiding on restoring open internet protections for consumers and businesses. The commission will seek comment on proposals to ensure broadband services have effective oversight. The notice of proposed rulemaking adopted seeks comment on classifying fixed and mobile broadband internet service as essential telecommunications under Title II. So under Title II of the Communications Act, something is deemed a utility. And they're putting the internet under that, which means it has to run just like a phone call or like flowing water. So, little bit of good news. We got to win. We got to frickin' win. And I know the world is frickin' very disturbing right now. There's so much bleak stuff out there. So, whenever we get a win, we got to just let it in for a little bit. We really do. Let it in, folks. You feeling that win? You feeling it? Let it. Breathe it in. Huh? We got to win. Go to battleforthenet.com to solidify that win. And also, guys, I will shamelessly plug a couple things. I have a show coming up on Saturday. It's my last big show of the year. It's October 21st in San Pedro, California, my neighborhood. It's a theater show with Stephanie Blum, myself, and Amanda Cohen. So it's a headliner series. It's going to be a fun show. We're low on tickets. It's almost sold out, so get your tickets now. Don't wait. If you were like, I think I might come check out Ron's show, get your tickets now. Get your tickets now. RonPlacone.com for those tickets on October 21st. There have been Status Coup fam at every show I've done this year, including Edinburgh, Scotland. So do not let me down in my neighborhood, folks. I want to see some Status Coup fam there, so get your tickets now, and I'll see you on Saturday. If you're not familiar with San Pedro and you need some restaurant recommendations, email me. I'll give you my list. And also, I have a new podcast series I'm doing called 1000 with Ron Placone. It's an interview series. The concept is I interview 1,000 different people that have piqued my interest in some way. Maybe I like their work. Maybe I'm inspired by their music or their films. Maybe they're a colleague of mine. Maybe I disagree with them. Interest is a broad concept. But I started that series. It's going to take me 20 years just about to do. So far, guests have included Jello Biafra. He was the most recent one. Cory Doctorow, Stephanie Blum, the comedian who I'm doing a show with on Saturday. Beans on Toast, the the UK singer-songwriter. And also, who is the other? Celeste Lacine, the LGBTQ activist. So that's a really cool series. Some of the guests coming up, we got Gabriel Rockhill, Dr. Gabriel Rockhill. We also have Margaret Kimberly. And yeah, we're going to get, thank you for that, Colin. Colin made the graphic, by the way. But that's the 1000 podcast with Ron Placone. I drop clips on my YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/Ron Placone. And you can get the full-length audio podcast, which I recommend because those are just the interviews in their entirety. You can get those podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. It's just 1000 with Ron Placone. Just 1000 with Ron Placone, wherever you get your podcast. If you could, please leave us a 5-star review. All right, let's get to the super chats. Did I mispronounce Edinburgh? Did I mispronounce? Sometimes I still do. It's a bad habit. I thought I said it right. Edinburgh. That's right, isn't it? All right. First of all, let's... thank you so much, Nancy. Donation from Nancy. Doing a great job. Keep up the good work. We need more of you guys out there. Thank you so much for that, Nancy. Thank you for your very, very generous contribution of $100. Thank you very, very much. That really helps us keep doing what we're doing here. We appreciate it very much, and thank you for the kind words. Mike Thompson, what up? He should give it back. Bernie Sanders did when he got a donation from a billionaire. Yeah, I mean, this guy is a billionaire. There's that part of it, too. Despush Fleisch. Trump is liberating the New York market from Trump. Oh, boy. Humorous, what's up? PSA, caution, the world is ending. The left and right fight. The food becomes short, the water becomes warm wood, the oceans die, the garden burns. Hey, I feel you. Yeah, it's pretty bleak out there. To kind of put a positive spin on that, those would make some pretty badass rock and roll lyrics. Thank you very much for that, humorous. Thank you, Desbush Fleisch. Thank you, Mike Thompson. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you all for your generosity. Thank you for helping to support this show. And remember, if you are interested, statuscoup.com/join. Your membership funds on the ground journalism, whether it's Jordan or Tina or myself, whether it's in Flint, whether it's in Detroit, whether it's in New York City, whether it's in California, whether it's at, hey, Vegas might be coming up, who knows? Helps us be on the ground to bring you the stories that literally no other media outlet is doing. No media outlet's doing it. And by the way, for anyone who signs up soon, you're going to get a link to my short film, Frank Azzurri, before it gets released to the public. So guys, thank you so much for being here today. Are we all good on the chats, Colin? Did we cover them all?
Yep. Oh, and also the final results for the poll were 218 votes. 47% said yes, Cornel should give it back. 28% say doesn't matter, and 23% say no.
All right, there it is. There it is. I was kind of in doesn't matter, but I'm definitely leaning yes, just because I don't feel like that's worth the stigma, the kind of smears they could put on that guy. But thank you all for voting. Thank you for your thoughts. That was fun. Next time I'm hosting, we're going to do another poll, so I look forward to that. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for tuning in. This is Ron Placone for Status Coup, signing out.